I could see myself in a pit trying to get out, just feeling so heavy that when I would make one step, the weight would just pull me back down.
Oh, but just ask them. I'm here talking about Mia Culpa on February 23rd, and that's what I'm most excited about right now. I think that's that. And yeah, and I'm
about your friend Beyonce. She's like your sister. You guys literally grew up together. She's stepping into country.
So proud of her.
I know, but were you surprised? And what do you think about it?
I'm so proud of her.
Yeah.
So happy for her.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Just dropped a whole new couple of songs, and it's my understanding that Renaissance 2 may or may not be country based. And then there's a rumor going around that Renaissance 3 may be either rock based or a DC reunion.
That is her business to talk about. But just ask them. I'm here talking about Mia Culpa on February 23rd, and that's what I'm most excited about right now. I think that's that. And yeah, and I'm.
We thought the Destiny's Child drama ended in the early 2000s, but Michelle Williams just lit a match and tossed it straight into the legacy. In one jaw-dropping moment, she didn't just reopen old wounds, she exposed fresh ones. From quiet resentment and backstage sabotage to jealousy, favoritism, and a bombshell claim about Matthew Knowles allegedly pulling strings behind the scenes, this is not your average girl group tension. And y'all, the streets are talking. Did Kelly Rowland ever stand a chance? Or was she doomed to live in Beyoncé's shadow from the jump? Let's get into the real reason Kelly's avoiding Beyoncé, dodging reunions, and walking off sets like she's had enough. Because Michelle may have just confirmed what we all suspected. Michelle Williams has always been the quiet one, the peacemaker, the overlooked third member of Destiny's Child who rarely made waves. But when she finally opened her mouth, really opened it, what came out wasn't grace. It was fire, and the flames quickly spread across the internet, igniting a conversation that the Beyoncé machine worked very hard for years to silence. In a recent interview that was supposed to promote healing and spirituality, Michelle veered off script, and what she said has fans, insiders, and even former collaborators scrambling for cover. I felt invisible, she confessed, her voice tight but controlled. Sometimes it was like I was just there, like background noise. But make no mistake, this wasn't just a vulnerable moment. It was a direct hit at the narrative that Destiny's Child was a unified sisterhood. A carefully curated fairy tale suddenly cracking at the seams. Michelle's words landed like a grenade for one simple reason: the timing. This wasn't out of nowhere. Behind the scenes, there's been growing friction between former members, renewed whispers about past betrayals, and subtle power moves that fans are only now starting to piece together. With Destiny's Child rumored to be plotting a comeback, whether it be music, a documentary, or a world tour, Michelle's comments dropped into an already bubbling pot of tension, and suddenly, everything's boiling over. Was it a cry for help? A final push for recognition? Or was Michelle, after decades of being cast in the shadows, finally reclaiming her story in the only way left, by blowing up the silence? What's clear is this: Beyoncé may be the queen, but Michelle just reminded everyone that even queens need a court, and this court has drama. If Michelle's emotional confession lit the fuse, then the next explosion was all about Kelly Rowland. And this time, it wasn't speculation. It wasn't fan fiction. It was real. Because buried in Michelle's quiet revelations was a subtle but unmistakable echo of something fans have whispered about for years. That behind Destiny's Child's perfectly synchronized harmonies, there was deep, unresolved jealousy, and at the heart of it was Kelly. Let's go back to the moment that cracked the illusion. Michelle said she felt invisible, that she was just there. But that comment didn't only point upward to Beyoncé, it pointed sideways to Kelly. Because Michelle wasn't the only one fighting to be seen. Kelly was too, and while Michelle internalized it, Kelly sang it. Back in 2013, Kelly Rowland released Dirty Laundry, a song that stopped the world cold. In it, she didn't just hint at pain, she ripped it open. While my sister was on stage killing it like a motherfucker / I was enraged, feeling like a motherfucker, she rapped. She laid it bare. While Beyoncé was skyrocketing to superstardom, Kelly was drowning in silence, trapped in a toxic relationship, and most shockingly, eaten alive by envy. She admitted it, on record, for everyone to hear. And now, with Michelle finally speaking out over a decade later, we're seeing the other side of that dynamic. Two women, both sidelined in different ways, both watching Beyoncé soar, and both quietly crumbling under the weight of being second or third best. Michelle's words now give new meaning to dirty laundry. Suddenly, Kelly's confessions don't sound like a one-time emotional purge. They sound like a warning, a clue that jealousy didn't just exist, it festered. That while the public praised their unity, these women were privately navigating hurt feelings, complicated hierarchies, and the invisible scars of always playing support to a global icon. And let's not forget, Kelly's envy wasn't just toward Beyoncé's fame. There were moments, subtle but powerful, that suggested her frustration extended to Michelle too. During interviews, there were eye rolls, visible tension when questions focused too heavily on Bey, and a pattern of Kelly constantly fighting to assert her identity. Michelle, by comparison, stayed quiet, but now we know that silence came at a cost. The irony? Michelle was seen as the one who lacked ambition, the background figure. But what if the truth was that she saw everything, felt everything, and chose to swallow it? While Kelly was battling jealousy, Michelle was battling erasure. And now, both are bleeding in public, years apart, through lyrics, interviews, and unfiltered truth. So let's be honest. Fans didn't create the jealousy narrative. They didn't project it. Kelly confirmed it. Michelle validated it. And Destiny's Child? Well, they tried to bury it. But in 2025, it's all resurfacing. And this time, the dirty laundry isn't just Kelly's. It's the group's. You can't talk about Destiny's Child without talking about the man behind the machine, Matthew Knowles. To the world, he was the manager, the businessman, the father. But behind the scenes, many fans have long whispered that Matthew wasn't just calling the shots. He was pulling every string, and those strings conveniently led straight to Beyoncé. Let's be honest. Matthew Knowles didn't manage a group. He managed a dynasty. And the crown jewel was always Beyoncé. From day one, he positioned her front and center, and every decision seemed to revolve around, making her untouchable. Kelly Rowland may have been like a second daughter to him. Raised in the Knowles household, loved like family, but love didn't translate into equity. And Michelle? She was brought in to fill a gap. A voice, not a vision. Fans have dissected the timeline for years. Beyoncé's solo debut in 2003 had a blockbuster rollout, high-budget videos, massive promo, industry support. Kelly's debut? Dropped a year earlier? Yes, but with half the attention and a fraction of the push. Even Michelle's gospel album, which could have tapped into a huge niche audience, felt like an afterthought from the label machine. Why? The speculation has always been that Matthew's game was zero-sum. For Beyoncé to shine, the others had to dim. Former Destiny's Child members Latavia and LaToya already blew the whistle back in the early 2000s, accusing Matthew of favoritism and manipulation. Fans called them bitter, until their claims started to line up with everything that's come out since. Kelly's feelings of jealousy, Michelle's feelings of invisibility, the group's eerie silence when they weren't promoting Beyoncé. This wasn't dysfunction, it was design. And now, as Michelle's recent comments spark a reckoning, more people are revisiting the old theory that Matthew Knowles wasn't just a manager. He was a master puppeteer. And some of Destiny's Child's biggest internal fractures may not have been personal. They were engineered. And just when the world thought the dust was finally settling, Kelly Rowland made a move that had fans raising eyebrows and red flags. She signed on as the opening act for Brandy and Monica. Yes, you heard that right, opening act. The same Kelly Rowland who was once part of the biggest girl group in the world. The same Kelly who's performed at Super Bowls, award shows, and global stages. Now she's playing second fiddle to two R&B legends she once stood beside as an equal. Fans were quick to call it what it looked like, a demotion. And the timing couldn't be more suspicious. Just months earlier, Beyoncé was quietly rumored to be planning a Destiny's Child reunion tour. Insiders said she extended the invite to both Michelle and Kelly. A high-profile comeback, global press, major money. And what does Kelly do instead? She takes the smaller tour, the nostalgia circuit, and skips out on her own group's legacy. Was it pride? Was it politics? Or was it pain? Because when Michelle spoke out about feeling invisible, she didn't just reveal her own trauma. She gave context to Kelly's recent decisions. Maybe Kelly didn't see Brandy and Monica as a step down. Maybe she saw them as safe, a space where she didn't have to compete, a place where she could finally be Kelly without standing in anyone's shadow, especially not Beyoncé's. But to fans watching from the outside, the optics were loud and clear. Beyoncé is doing stadiums. Michelle is doing healing work and public speaking. And Kelly? She's back on the R&B opening circuit, smiling through it, but sending a message. I'm done playing second to Bey, even if it means playing third to someone else. And here's where the tea starts boiling. Sources close to Parkwood Entertainment allege that Beyoncé had big plans for a Destiny's Child reunion. Not just a one-off Super Bowl cameo or a nostalgia medley. This was going to be a full-circle moment. A tour, a documentary, maybe even new music. The fans were ready. The labels were on board. Beyoncé had already cleared her calendar. Michelle reportedly said yes. Kelly allegedly said no. Now, you might wonder why someone would turn down that kind of opportunity, especially when the legacy of Destiny's Child could give Kelly's solo career a fresh jolt. But according to insiders, Kelly's answer wasn't about logistics or scheduling. It was about fear. The same insecurity she confessed to in Dirty Laundry. The same emotional weight Michelle just exposed. The fear of being back in the orbit of Beyoncé and fading into the background all over again. And here's where Michelle's comments come full circle. Because when Michelle said she felt like she was just there, it gave validation to Kelly's alleged reason for pulling out. She wasn't trying to be difficult. She was trying to protect her peace, her identity, her autonomy. Reuniting with Beyoncé meant reliving every headline, every whisper, every comparison she spent years trying to escape. It's not about bitterness. It's about boundaries. And maybe, just maybe, Kelly finally drew hers. But fans aren't letting it go so easily. Some are praising her for stepping away from a dynamic that no longer serves her. Others are calling it self-sabotage, another missed chance to re-cement her legacy. Either way, one thing is clear. Destiny's Child may never reunite the way fans want them to, because the wounds are deeper than we knew. And the silence? It's not just awkward. It's intentional. When Kelly Rowland walked off the Today show set in early 2024, headlines exploded. Kelly storms off live interview. Rowland throws diva tantrum. Beyoncé's bestie has a meltdown. But the media got one thing wrong. That wasn't a meltdown. It was a breaking point. Let's rewind. The moment went viral for all the wrong reasons. Kelly, invited on to discuss her own skincare brand, found herself yet again fielding questions about Beyoncé. And not just casual references. The interview was dominated by Beyoncé talk. Her music, her influence, her skincare routine. It was as if Kelly was merely a spokesperson for someone else's brand. And when the anchor, smiling, maybe not malicious but certainly tone-deaf, asked Kelly whether she ever felt overshadowed by Beyoncé, the temperature in the room changed. Kelly didn't yell. She didn't insult anyone. She simply stood up, removed her mic, and walked away with more dignity than the moment deserved. And, suddenly, everyone was paying attention, not just to what happened, but to why it happened. Because this wasn't the first time. The media has been erasing Kelly Rowland for 2 decades. Time and time again, her interviews would be hijacked by Beyoncé questions, reducing her to a footnote in someone else's story. Remember the 2013 Fuse TV sit-down, where Kelly was asked, yet again, how she feels about playing second to Beyoncé. She gave the host a look that could slice glass. "Second to no one," she replied. "I'm doing just fine." Even back then, she was tired. In 2020, when Kelly dropped her single Coffee, a sensual Afro-Caribbean ode to Black beauty and desire, the press barely covered the music. But somehow, Beyoncé's Ivy Park collaboration launched the same week. And guess who got all the headlines? Fans noticed. Again. So when Kelly walked off that Today show set, She wasn't just shutting down a bad question. She was shutting down decades of disrespect. The walk-off was a line in the sand. A silent scream from a woman who spent too long smiling through erasure. And now, thanks to Michelle's emotional revelations, we finally understand that it wasn't just the media, it was personal. To understand how deep this goes, you have to look at the cumulative damage. Over the years, Kelly has given us subtle, but consistent, glimpses into the emotional toll of constantly being minimized. Look at the infamous 2011 DJ Tim Westwood interview. Kelly was so excited to promote her solo album Here I Am, which featured the #1 single Motivation. But not even 2 minutes into the interview, Tim asked about, surprise, Beyoncé. Kelly tried to stay gracious, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. The entire room felt her disappointment. Then there's the 2016 HuffPost Live interview. Kelly was asked about Beyoncé's Lemonade and whether the album resonated with her. Kelly paused, looked away from the camera, and simply said, "It's not my story to tell." No follow-up, just distance, exhaustion, boundaries. She's had to constantly defend her individuality, her artistry, her space in the industry. And time again, when she tried to shine, the media turned the spotlight back on someone else. And let's not forget Dirty Laundry, the 2013 ballad that stopped fans in their tracks. It wasn't just a song, it was a confession. Kelly sang of jealousy, of living in the shadow of a sister friend, of abusive relationships, and the isolation that fame can bring. For years, fans thought the jealousy line was a passing lyric. But after Michelle's recent comments, it reads like a survivor's diary. The pain was real. The cracks were already there. And now, the world is finally seeing what Kelly tried so hard to keep polished. Michelle's unexpected honesty wasn't just a headline. It was a cultural reset. The moment she admitted feeling invisible in Destiny's Child, it was like she cracked open the vault. Suddenly, fans started re-watching old interviews, re-listening to old albums, and re-evaluating everything they thought they knew. Kelly wasn't being petty. She wasn't bitter. She was burned out, wounded, overlooked, and something shifted. Social media flooded with support. TikToks went viral comparing Kelly's interviews to Beyoncé's. Clips circulated of Kelly being interrupted, dismissed, or reduced to the other one. A new wave of fans, especially younger Gen Z stans, started defending her, many admitting they had slept on her catalog or didn't realize how deep the imbalance was. The hashtags Justice for Kelly and Kelly Deserved More trended on X for days. Fans began streaming her discography in solidarity. Music critics started reposting old reviews, praising Kelly's vocals and performance charisma. What was once fan speculation became collective revelation. Michelle's voice didn't just expose a crack in Destiny's Child's shiny veneer. It gave fans permission to reclaim Kelly's story. Not as Beyoncé's shadow, but as a light that was dimmed by the machine. And now, the narrative is shifting. Kelly Rowland is no longer just a girl in gold standing beside Beyoncé in the Survivor video. She's the survivor of an industry that tried to box her in. And finally, she's being seen. As the dust settles from Michelle's emotional confession and the fan-driven reckoning over how Kelly Rowland was treated for decades, a final, unsettling question has begun to take root. One that's been whispered in online forums, dissected on TikTok, and debated in backroom industry conversations. Was this all by design? Because at the center of this storm, beneath the sisterhood smiles, the press junkets, the glittering stage lights, there was always one man pulling the strings, Matthew Knowles. Beyoncé's father, Destiny's Child's manager, the man with the plan. And now fans are asking, was that plan ever meant to include Kelly winning? Let's talk facts. From the very beginning, Destiny's Child was a machine built to launch Beyoncé. That's not shade. That's structure. From the group's formation as Girls' Time, Beyoncé was pushed front and center. Lead vocals? Beyoncé. Album covers? Beyoncé. Branding deals? Beyoncé. Even when Kelly had her moments, like on Dilemma with Nelly or the Simply Deep album, those moments were never sustained. Why? Industry insiders say it's not just favoritism. It was strategic suppression. When LaToya Luckett and Latavia Roberson were abruptly kicked out of Destiny's Child in 2000, they claimed they were fired without warning, allegedly because they challenged Matthew's control. Then came Farrah Franklin, who barely lasted 6 months before vanishing into pop history's graveyard. The only two who remained? Beyoncé and Kelly. But here's the thing, even within that inner circle, there was an imbalance. LaToya later revealed that while the group was framed as a democracy, Matthew made sure one voice mattered more than the others. And fans believe Kelly, raised with Beyoncé like a sister, was never seen as competition. She was insurance, loyalty, a buffer, and when she started to show real solo potential, the brakes were applied. Let's revisit Here I Am, Kelly's 2011 album that had real momentum. Motivation was a massive hit. It had radio dominance, club play, and fan demand. For a moment, Kelly was winning. But the promotion stalled. The follow-up singles didn't get the same push. Rumors swirled that Matthew, who was no longer her manager by then, still had influence in backdoor industry circles. That he advised people not to go all in on Kelly. Why? Because a true Kelly Rowland rise might fracture the Beyoncé mythos. Think about it. Beyoncé's brand wasn't just built on her talent. It was built on contrast. She was the leader because someone had to be the follower. She was the light because someone had to stay in the background. And who better than Kelly? The ever-loyal friend, the good soldier, the quiet shadow. But shadows have memories. Michelle's recent words didn't just confirm internal tension. They exposed a pattern. A recurring cycle of emotional silencing, commercial sabotage, and image management that all points back to one core principle: protect the queen at all costs. Even the recent rumors of a Destiny's Child reunion tour come with a twist. Word on the street is that Beyoncé offered both Kelly and Michelle a spot on a stadium tour to coincide with her next solo album rollout. But Kelly allegedly said no, not because she doesn't love performing, but because she was tired of being the opener in a show branded as a reunion. And suddenly the optics change. Kelly choosing to open for Brandy and Monica, a move some called a step down, now reads like an act of rebellion. She wanted to be seen with her peers, not beneath her sister. And that, insiders say, is what finally shook the hive. Because when Kelly refuses to play the role she was scripted for, the whole machine glitches. And now, the final theory emerges. Half conspiracy, half uncomfortable truth. Was the Destiny's Child brand just a launch pad for one destiny? And was everyone else, Kelly, Michelle, even the ex-members, just collateral? If so, then Michelle's comments weren't just emotional. They were revolutionary. They cracked the narrative. They gave Kelly the space to reclaim her agency. And they made fans ask the one question the Knowles machine never wanted. What if Kelly was meant to rise, but someone made sure she couldn't? And if that's true, who else did they silence along the way? And now that the tea has been spilled, the illusion shattered, and the sisterhood myth cracked wide open, there's only one question left to ask. Can Destiny's Child ever truly reunite again? Not for a one-off performance. Not for a cameo at Coachella. We're talking about a real, soul-deep reunion. A reconciliation that goes beyond the stage lights, beyond rehearsed smiles, beyond PR-crafted statements. Can these women, after all the unspoken tension, hidden resentment, and backstage betrayals, ever stand side by side in peace? Because let's be honest, this wasn't just some petty fallout. This was a legacy unraveling in real time. Michelle didn't just throw shade, she lit a fuse. Her comments unearthed years of buried emotion. The kind of pain that doesn't just disappear with a group hug or a nostalgia-fueled tour. She cracked open something raw, something real, and in doing so, she gave the public permission to finally see Kelly's silence not as humility, but as hurt. And now, for the first time, the fantasy of Destiny's Child as a perfect sisterhood feels like just that. A fantasy. Let's not forget, Kelly Rowland has made choices lately that speak volumes. Turning down the alleged reunion invite. Choosing to tour with Brandy and Monica instead. opting for spaces where she doesn't have to be anyone's backup or second best. That's not random. That's intentional. And Beyoncé? She's remained silent. Not a word in response to Michelle's viral interview. No public defense of Kelly. No denial of favoritism. Just silence, which, depending on who you ask, is either classy professionalism or calculated distance. Fans are divided. Some believe this is just growing pains, a necessary rupture before a beautiful reunion. Others think the bridge has been burned beyond repair, that too much damage has been done, that too many years went by without accountability, that healing isn't just unlikely, it's impossible. Because how do you come back from a legacy built on silence? How do you rebuild trust when the whole world watched one woman rise while the others were quietly sidelined? How do you share a stage when one mic was always turned up louder than the rest? A real reunion would take more than matching outfits and choreo. It would take apologies, ownership, truth-telling, the kind that doesn't come with press handlers and pre-approved sound bites. And here's the real kicker. Maybe that reunion isn't even for us to witness. Maybe Kelly, Michelle, and Beyoncé will never grace another stage as Destiny's Child again. Not because of ego, but because they've outgrown the illusion that kept them chained together. Maybe the only Destiny's Child reunion that matters now is the one that happens behind closed doors. Off camera, away from the fans, the headlines, the commentary. But until then, fans are left holding their breath, waiting, hoping, wondering if that iconic Say My Name harmony will ever ring out again. Not just in sound, but in spirit. Because after all this, after all these years, the question isn't just can Destiny's Child reunite. The real question is, should they? And if they did, would it still feel like destiny or just damage control? Stay tuned, because this story, it's far from over.